Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. I'm here with my fantastic guests tonight, Kevin Estrella and Michael Lee Hill. And gentlemen, why don't you give everybody a rundown as far as how they can get in touch with you and listen to your music?
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
Alrighty. My website is www.michaelleehill.net, and there's basically two tabs, one on UFOs, and you can look into my UFO research. Then there's one on music, and it gives you a little history on, me and my music. But I also really recommend my blog. My biggest joy having a website was being able to use the blog to be able to communicate what I wanted, what I thought was important, and so check it out.
Excellent.
Yeah, just to make a mention, the stuff on his blog is absolutely incredible because he shows everything that Lockheed has shared with him. So if you want access to confidential information, he puts it out there. It's mind blowing.
Oh, thank you. I'm waiting for someone to notice. I'm like, man, I'm sitting here. Bigelow Aerospace is a leader in this. They make space station modules for, for the powers that be. And UK Ministry of Defense, I'm just throwing it all out there. And I'm glad you're paying attention, Kevin, because it is, this is right from Bigelow Aerospace and Lockheed Martin. And, it's this information. And I'll tell you what's really mind-blowing is where it all leads is Bigelow Aerospace contacted me. They're the ones that own the Skinwalker Ranch, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with. But the thing is, there's these orbs
Solaris is going to move there.
Well, it's all Anunnaki, so you'll be right among family, I'm sure. That's what they told me is they contacted me saying, we know that what you're in contact with over Lake Erie is the real deal because it's the exact same phenomenon we've been studying over the Skinwalker Ranch. And the scientists there seen exactly, the Native American Indians named them skinwalkers because they would see these balls of light come down and take on biological life form. It could take on a large wolf or a large deer. And so they point me towards the UK Ministry of Defense and some documents to look into. And the UK Ministry of Defense said the real deal is these orbs of light. They don't know how they can divide and come back together. But they said occasionally and exceptionally, 3 of them could come together and in some process unknown to mankind, create an enormous triangular craft that would account for all these triangular craft being seen all over the world. And so right there, what we're talking about is some type of intelligence that can become anything physical, both biological or technological.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's something.
Consciousness. These craft. They have their own consciousness. They are alive. This is what I found out through Chris Bledsoe and through Nancy Tremaine, who have been in contact with the craft. Chris Bledsoe has flown the craft. He says they have their own consciousness. The craft is alive.
Did Chris, go ahead.
I've heard they're Merkabahs, truly. What we're seeing, I met an Arcturian ambassador. For real wasn't channeling us as well. You know who he is. And he said, do you want to know what these orbs of light are that have contacted you? And what he told me actually corresponded very well later with the UK Ministry of Defense. He said the human Merkabah, your aura around you, if it's ignited correctly, the sphere will be 3 feet above your head, 3 feet below your feet, and electricity actually comes in through your big toes, and then it exits your crown chakra back out, and it, you get a toroidal kind of thing going. Mm-hmm. But he said, so if you see an orb of light that is like 11 to 12, 13 feet in diameter, there's one individual in between it, but 3 of those beings could come together, and he said that there's a basketball size ball of material, and I got it written down what it was, but he said, Michael, you know how everything is truly light that has been slowed down and becomes physical matter. He said, so imagine matter that was the closest to turning back into light again, that it was screaming to become light, is what he said. He said, imagine that there was a basketball-sized ball in between these three individuals sitting in a pyramid shape that were all creating massive amounts of energy because they're all creating Merkabas, and they start through like infinity loops, sending energy into that ball that's screaming to become light. And it comes out of the ball and it goes into the other person, loops back around, and all three of them get infinity loops going in and out. He said they will it to become a little miniature sun sitting in between them. Then that ball of light sitting in between them can expand through the greater sacred geometry that all three participants are creating. And now they have a 50-foot sphere of light. So he said if you see a house-size ball of light, there's more than likely three. And he said there's always 3s, 6s, and 9s, which is interesting.
Wow.
He said that, and if 3 of those balls of light come together that have 3 participants inside each, he said you'll have 9. And then those 9 can create a large UFO, triangular craft, that then thousands of them can then use to come down and see what us crazy humans are doing. And so it's the exact same thing the UK Ministry of Defense was saying, but it's all Merkaba light-based technology. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, when I was brought into the NSA, the Remote Viewers Group, you mentioned the Spike TV show. They're the ones that wouldn't allow it to be aired. Spike TV at the end, they said the problem we're having is your story is just too big. But the head of the NSA, I think he made them tell me why, because they took me into a meeting with about 8 people, and they said, we want to tell you why your Spike TV show has not been allowed to be aired, and why this has been withheld from humanity, the subject matter. And I thought it was very fascinating. And if you don't mind, I'll share, because I'd love your guys' take on this, because I'm not saying I subscribe to what they said, but I didn't even ever think of it. They said if they allowed people to understand extraterrestrials are truly here, the next question would be, well, how are they getting from A to B? That leads to their propulsion systems, and it leads to unlimited free energy. They said that you don't even need alien intervention. There's been many very smart humans like Tesla that were bringing unlimited free energy. What they said was, what we don't understand is unlimited free energy is truly like Pandora's box. And that if a whole planet-wide mass consciousness is not ready when unlimited free energy, they said it is unlimited and it is free and it is energy. So they said, what do you think that a person, in another country that has the mindset to take a woman and stone her to death in the middle of the village because she had a rumor of having an affair, what do you think they're going to do with their unlimited free energy?
They won't get it. Let me explain. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to chime in.
No. That's pretty much it. And I my only response to that, because I never even really thought of that, I said, well, why don't we talk to people that got beyond this? Mm-hmm. Right. Let's not. I don't want to talk to Trump. I don't want to talk to Putin. Let's talk to an extraterrestrial.
And we are. And what you realize is, and we've had this conversation since we started, but your hybrids, we are these star people. We are the ancestors we seek. We are these off-worlders, and the reflection we're seeing in the skies at night is really a mirror image of who we really are on some level of consciousness, if you ask me. But when you're talking about, first of all, I wanted to address the Merkaba, because that's my area. And when I don't know how much you know about me, Michael, but I was pulled into a covert program in 2004. Kevin knows about it, but I was interfaced with artificial intelligence and synthetic telepathy. It was a very advanced program. But I can tell you point blank, one of the reasons they picked me up was because of my Merkaba, because I was teaching DNA activation from light body to Merkaba, which means you go to certain levels of light body, you do the work on yourself, and your vibratory rate keeps going up and up and up to a point where you calibrate more and more universal celestial energies that download into your celestial matrix, to a point where you expand, like what you were talking about. Your aura expands, and it gets so expanded in light, and it becomes photon electric, and then it interferes with everything, to a point where you can actually modulate your own frequency and start to phase shift. And I know that there are people out there who are ascended master consciousness, like avatars, or even the Tibetan monks, that can do these things. But that's a very powerful thing. And that's one of the reasons I got pulled in. But that's a powerful Merkaba vehicle of light is what we are. That's what we morph into. So when you touched on these orbs, or their perception of these orbs being Merkabas, I think that's highly probable. It's intelligent energy. It can change its design work. And it's also, there's something there driving it, because the Merkaba is just the vehicle, but you're the one in consciousness that's actually directing that. So very interesting information from what you're sharing here tonight.
what I'll tell you is the head of the NSA group, his name was A.R. Borden, and he asked this other individual, I don't know who he was. He was a young guy, and I've never seen him before or since, but he said, would you tell Michael what we know about the orbs of light? And this guy said, we look at them as extraterrestrial drones of a sort. He said, but the intelligence behind the phenomenon might not be from our timeline. It might be from the past or our future. And this is interesting because the Bigelow aerospace investigator, his name was Gary Hernandez, that contacted me. He said that these are not what we would think of UFOs as like built of metal and nuts and bolts. He said they have more to do with time travel and portals than anything. So then what I'm saying is these two match again, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah. And I was just talking to a gentleman on my show the other night, and we were discussing the same kind of thing about operators of the craft. And also he mentioned the word drone and also scouts, insofar as possible scouts, that some of these anomalous UFOs that people don't really understand what they are. Some could be Merkaba oriented, and also some are more like scouts from an artificial intelligence interconnection program, where they're actually an extension of, where you send in something as kind of to surveil the environment, and that could be a possibility as well. I guess it just depends. And I'm sure through all of your viewing and what you've been bringing in, have you noticed a difference at all, or is it the same kind of orbs that you see, or plasma design work? What is that exactly you're seeing consistently?
No, it is all orb phenomenon.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what happened is, I had this old late 1990s Sony camcorder and had a little black and white viewfinder. And I actually hated filming them because when you see them with your naked eye, they're absolutely breathtaking. It's almost like multi-dimensional colors, and it's flickering. It's almost like a little supernova out in front of you. And I'm looking through a little black and white viewfinder trying to keep it, in frame, and it's not easy. And I would much rather just let that light hit my retina, but I knew it was important to catalog the phenomenon. But I got to the point, I would tell them, listen, unless you come closer or do something that I've not seen before, I'm not filming you. I'm going to sit down here, and I love seeing you, and we'll have a nice, beautiful night. And always they would come closer and closer till, some of my footage truly is just bizarre. And, I filmed them coming in and out of the lake. So yeah, they seem to respond to your intent. And I was told, really, they will not even show themselves to someone that it's going to scare them or anger them, because those frequencies hurt them more so than in ways we don't even understand. So you got to, just go at it. People ask me, oh, how can I see them? First of all, I say, just look up and go with an open heart and ask them,
Right. Exactly.
I've never seen them personally, but Chris Bledsoe, they appear to him all the time, and he has literally hundreds of them, which he's photographed on his cell phone, and he's sent me. I have a whole bunch on my cell phone right now that I'm talking on, of these orbs of light that come visit him, and most of them, if you look at them, you actually see faces inside these orbs, like they're beings inside these orbs. And they're non-human faces, like some, like I gotta send them to you, Solaris and Mike. I gotta see these things, like they're incredible. And Chris keeps sending them to me. It's like it's just incredible. And they show up to this place all the time.
See, they're everywhere, and that's the thing. And you all don't use night vision. I mean, you're just there. I think you said you just use a lighter. Is that right, Michael?
No, yeah, I do contact them with a lighter, but my Sony camcorder that I had a really nice filming at nighttime with like a super night shot mode. I put it into infrared. And one thing I did learn from working with David Sereda was that sometimes the ships are visible in higher, like infrared, where we can't see it. If something is vibrating in the infrared field, it'll be invisible to us, but it's actually a higher level of photons. And like birds and bees, they can see those frequencies, but we can't. So I got in the habit of flicking my camera into super night shot infrared mode while I was filming something to be able to see things that weren't visible in the normal spectrum. And sometimes, sure enough, like there's this huge triangle out in front of me, but when I clicked it into super night shot, there was another huge orb of light that was directly in the middle of the three orbs that made up the triangle. And it's not there. Like, I couldn't see it with my naked eye, but the minute I went to infrared, it was there, and it was the biggest, brightest object that was on that craft. But
Wow.
it wasn't visible in, normal mode or to my eyes.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. You have anything to add to that, Kevin?
No.
You know what comes to mind when you were talking about the black triangles? Because obviously, I've heard obviously those are ours, or to some degree, our craft reverse engineered.
Some
So,
of them.
so what do you think? So you think they are a mock? Okay, so there's our version, and then there's another kind that's not.
Yeah, our version is not multidimensional. Their
Mhm.
version is Merkaba light technology that is so far over stuff that we're doing. But what I can tell you is our government has been working with the Anunnaki in reverse engineer programs since the late 1950s.
Right.
And they met with Eisenhower. And, that's actually coming out now with Laura Eisenhower, his granddaughter, I believe she would be. She's confirmed these things. And I asked A.R. Borden because, what I found out is the Anunnaki came here and said, we want to help you get to unlimited free energy, but you got to get rid of your nuclear power ambitions. You don't know what you're dealing with, and it's truly not a good technology. And we will help you, but you got to get rid of that. And he said simultaneously, because I asked him on a radio interview, I said, what's it going to take to get another offer? Because evidently they were right. Look at Fukushima, and look at all the facts of these orbs of light coming down and taking out nuclear missiles and silos. It's like they've been constantly going, you don't know what you're doing. Look into this,
Right.
but
Well, it's interesting. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off, but we're in this field. They call it the ether field. You can call it a lot of things, but Tesla knew that. We have the free energy. You touched on the free energy, and what my point was when we were discussing a little thing about how some people are not as evolved in consciousness and wouldn't be able to hold the vibratory rate of the transition. That's really the deal. We're dealing with people who are not, if they're not ready to handle these full light energies that are descending onto the timeline, then what they're going to do eventually is just kind of go into what I call this null zone. They're not going to be able to ascend to those levels, but it doesn't mean everybody else is going to be held back. We're going to go to the level of our frequency and consciousness, and this is why it's so important to raise that vibration and change the frequency of what we are here on this dimensional space so that we can be those multidimensional beings we're supposed to be. But
perfect.
It's real interesting when you see this on the timeline all morphing. But I'll tell you what, you keep talking about Merkaba, and I'm going to have to give you one of my books. I know Kevin knows it. The Transmutation Through Ascension I wrote. I mean, my whole background is Merkaba, and they pulled me in to study my Merkaba. Okay. And this is why when you tell me that they're working on stuff, I know that I was probably a lab rat for a lot of that. And I don't know what year that was, but mine was in 2004, that induction. And I do know, because we are off-worlders, because we have a different DNA sequence or celestial design work, we are able to activate avatar gifts to a very high frequency. And that takes on many, many formulas. And the Merkaba is part of that. And I do know from what you were saying also, they cannot access that type of consciousness unless they are have spiritually done the work.
Yeah, it's not that's exactly the key.
That's something that really bothered me when you were talking about why they didn't play your show because of the free energy, and if the Muslims got it. Like once you stop there, that immediately was a red flag for me, because the Earth is going to go from third density to fifth density, but the people who are ready for it are the ones who are already have awakened and who are of a higher vibration. These people who are still at a lower vibration, who do horrible things to people and feed on hate and live by hate, they're not going to be there when the ship comes, when it's time. I mean, love is the center of the universe. Love is the power, unconditional love. And if you don't have unconditional love, you're not going to raise in frequency. I mean, it's all about love, and I'm telling you, from all the people who I've interviewed, all the hybrids who I've been, it's continuously the same theme of love is the key to the universe. Love is what brings us to a higher state of vibration. people who are of anger, people who are of hate, people who are of indifference, of who don't have empathy. Those are lower. That's lower frequency. They're not gonna. They're not gonna get higher. They're not gonna make it.
Right. No, you're right about that. And also, there's another thing I wanted to incorporate here is really because of my background with covert technology and mind control. I'm well aware that they use certain forms of psychotronic programming to actually put people in a stasis to a point where they cannot transcend the vibration. And that also is a psychological warfare program, which I'm sure you guys are up to speed in so far as what they do with their warfare programs. They can go good or bad. And
Oh yeah.
and then also I got a taste of that with the synthetic telepathy because it can be used as an interrogation program and a lot of entrainment programming. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with frequency wars also. And I was curious insofar as if any of you have witnessed or got a sense of a weaponization or a war, a species war going here on the timeline, that there's something going on with a rifting effect in the process of our evolution and ascension.
I can tell you, I don't know how much we can even get into this right now, but I didn't know that this even existed. But I don't know if you've seen an episode of Ancient Aliens called The Mysterious Nine. And it was all about this Council of Nine that's been known throughout all the world's religions and Egypt and everything. And this council oversees the evolution of mankind. Well, I can tell you not too long ago, in real, this wasn't channeling, the person that was overseeing the ceremony when the veil dropped, he said, "Michael, I work with the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness." And he said, "I'm so glad you didn't follow the mind programming to enter the dark side." And he said, "You're the first in this cycle with what he said, picture this, like when you're brought before this council of light and dark, they vet a human to see, like on the dark, it's almost like their spiritual job is to see if you'll give your power away to an illusionary source. And, the fact of the matter is, never give your power away to an outside source, and never do anything. Someone tells you to do something that offends your soul, it's about standing up in your own I am and claiming your own sovereignty. But that only gets you past the dark side if you can succumb their mind programming. And he was very specific. He said, this is interesting what we're talking about. He said, "Michael, we're controlling," because this being is Enlil, by the way. He was known, the name Yahweh was known through the Cherokee and the Iroquois long before Egypt. And Yahweh was known as the one that sat between the councils of these dark and light wizards and shamans. Well, it is Thoth. If you ever read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Oh, I love Thoth. Yeah.
This is it's the halls of Amenti, and
there's
right on. Well, we
ahead.
got a lot to talk about.
I'm telling you, I love you. You guys are my favorite. Go ahead.
Well, pretty much what happened was he just let the ball drop. He told me everything. He said, there was mind programming to get people to go into that dark path, but part of the mind programming was to never pray for rain. And because this was a Native American Indian sun ceremony, the sun dance. And so part of it was they were told from birth going into this to never pray for rain. But on the side of the 7 Lords of Light, you automatically got their blessing if you prayed for rain, because they said if you showed enough love and compassion for your fellow man and woman that were dancing to show, like, please bring them some relief, that you would automatically gain the side of the light. Because just because you don't succumb to giving up your own power to an illusionary outside force, that just gets you past the dark. The light will test you to see if you bring love and compassion to any suffering that comes your way. And I went through the testing, and I'm glad to say, because I've heard a few other people in the past got to this gate, and Thoth was one. It said when he got past and he passed the testing of the light and dark, that the veil of darkness had to fall away. Then you got King Solomon. When he got through the gate, it said that, quote unquote, the demons had to do his bidding, and they built King Solomon's temple. But then you get to Abraham in the Bible, because the dark will take it further and further dark until somehow flesh, blood sacrifices will be brought into it, and they'll be asked for child sacrifice or animal sacrifice. Just like he thinks it's God going, hey, why don't you kill your son? The answer is no. It's a human that's went down the dark path way too far. So here's an example of someone that went before the council and failed the tests. I've been told, and I can tell you after the fact, I got my Native American Indian name, and it's Rainbow Warrior Eagle. And the grandmother said, you are the rainbow we've been waiting for. She said, when the chakras are cleaned and balanced, they emit the colors of the rainbow from red in the root to purple. And for those who have the third eye sight to see that they've become the whirling rainbow, which gets into the rainbow warrior prophecy of the Native American Indians, which is coming to fruition. I'm so glad to say.
Yes, it is. Wow.
Yes.
I love that name. That's very, very powerful. Well, you definitely have a strong mission here on the timeline. There's no doubt about that. I can get that, and Kevin as well. And yeah, there's no such thing as coincidence when it comes to this at all. Do you have anything to add, Kevin?
Oh, geez. there was something that I wanted to talk about in regards to some very amazing things that came to my attention recently.
Like synchronicities or what? Go ahead.
Synchronicities, and also just I think I'm just tapping much higher in to the the universal consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I had three things this week that kind of took me by surprise. I mean, okay, first of all, the UFO showed up when I was listening, and then once again the synchronicity with you and I sending Michael Lee Hull a message the same minute, but then the same day. I mean,
yep.
That's pretty crazy. But last weekend, something happened to me. It was quite significant. I went to visit my brother in Toronto, and my brother and I are very, very close. We're very close. Anyway, I was driving to Toronto, and all of a sudden, this download came to me. This message saying, "You and your brother are going to get into an argument tonight." And I was just like, "What?" Like it took me by surprise. Like, what? Why would I even think that? Like, that's so funny. We don't fight about anything. Why would this thought come into my mind and tell me that you're going to get into a fight tonight? And I was just like, I cuffed it off, like whatever. And so we go to visit him, and we had a fabulous night, absolutely amazing night. Everything was great until about 11 o'clock, and then he and I were playing Ghost Recon on the Xbox, and something came up that triggered something that I decided to share with him about one of my stories that Chris Bledsoe told me, of UFO related. And then my brother just ripped me a new hole. Like he just said, "Yeah, Kevin, and I met Napoleon last week." I'm like, "What?" He says, "Kevin, your beliefs are not my beliefs. Don't try and shove your beliefs down my throat. I don't believe in any of your UFO stuff." And and it just went on and on. And it was just like, whoa. I thought he knew me because I've been doing this for several years. But I knew that I knew that he was skeptical, but I didn't realize he was that skeptical.
Maybe he was triggered. Sounds like he was triggered.
It was triggered because I mentioned something. It was just something that it was the weapon he was using was called a SCAR, and it related. All of a sudden, I was thinking about the new Battlestar Galactica series, and there was a episode called Scar, which is about the Cylon Raider, who takes out. They can't kill this Scar, this Cylon Raider. But what was discovered while watching the Battlestar Galactica is what they found out because they captured a Cylon Raider is that they are actual biological entities. They have their own consciousness. These ships, they're the Cylon Raiders, and that's what I was trying to share with Craig was that. What Chris Bledsoe and Anthony Tremaine have confirmed with me is that these alien, like these UFO, these spacecraft, they have their own consciousness. They are biological entities, and that's what I was trying to share with him. And then he just completely ripped right into me. And then after it was all done, all of a sudden I stopped and went, "Oh my God, they warned me. They told me this was going to happen."
Careful
It
with
was, it was just like, when Jesus told Peter, "As much as you love me, you're going to deny me 3 times before the cock crows." And Peter's like, "Oh, I will die before I do that." Well, guess what? That I had the exact same experience.
Very
So
interesting.
that happened last. But here's something really cool. When I met Elizabeth April, who she was my guest in January, She is a tall white Zeta incarnate on this timeline, and her ability and talent is that she is a cosmic channeler. She pulls information from the universe, and she's been teaching. And then she did a reading on me because we met in Hamilton, and then she said, Kevin, you and I are part of an elite force. We're part of this Plan B. We've been activated 2 years prior to scheduling to help speed up the awakening. And then she said, like that, basically she's my teammate. She's part of my teammate. Now I also found my other teammate, Hildegard Gremnier, who is a Andromeda walk-in. I met her at ACE, but she even said the same words about, we are part of this, basically drop behind enemy lines to infiltrate. Now I stopped Elizabeth. I say, wait a second, you got this message. She was told she had planned to move to Taiwan for a year when all of a sudden this message came through that she had to cancel that and that the work began now. And I said, okay, stop. When did this message come through? And she stopped and thought about it. She said it was August 2014. Guess what? What happened in August 2014? That was my UFO sighting.
Wow. Synchronicity again.
Synchronicity.
Very, very fascinating. I'll tell you what. That's pretty incredible information. We have a bunch of questions here in the chat, so I'm going to address these with you all, and you both can chime in and ask whoever wants to answer. Let's see. Or ask Michael, does he think we are spiritual beings having a human experience on Earth? That's from Olive in the chat.
Yes. I love this place, though. A lot of people seem like they want off here, and I think this is a beautiful place. And I heard it said, the master is teaching the student. The student says, Master, if everything's just an illusion, why does anything matter? And the master says, it may be only an illusion, but it's a very real illusion. That's Steve Vai, Kevin. Mm-hmm. That's actually lyrics from his album. It's called Real Illusions. I think that what we take from this experience, first of all, how you respond to it, you take with you. The emotions are real. I personally think that this is a spiritual phase of evolution where you create the individual. You choose from the light and the dark who you are. And that's the gift, is at the end of the cycle, you get to take you with you up and evolve up into source with your likes and dislikes and how you view the universe. So I think that this is not as not important as some people like to say, and it's only just a dream and it's just an illusion. Well, there's absolutely a reason why we're here and what we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
As Grant Cameron put it, there's the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
Perfect.
Yeah, I like that one too. Very nice. Yep.
We've all chosen to be here on this planet incarnate in this time wherever we are. We've lived multiple times. We're on a spiritual path towards higher consciousness, towards the Creator. But once we pass on, we turn back to balls of light, and we pack up all our memories with us from our existence, and we carry it with us. We have access to our memory of who we were in our past life. It's embedded in our DNA in the quantum universe. It's kind of hard to explain, but everything is connected at a quantum level. There's no division, and it's been proven scientifically. There's no division when you get to the quantum level. And I don't understand all the. Solaris is more of an expert in this field. She knows this stuff, and she's my teacher. Same with you, Michael. Both of you guys, I wouldn't know anything if it weren't for you two.
That's not true. We're just reminding you.
Reminding me, yeah. But one of the things I discovered about one of my past lives when I was going back to Egypt was that both Elizabeth and I were back in ancient Egypt, but I was a reptilian general. So that, and there's more
Well, you still
information
are
about
then.
that.
That's another thing we were talking about, the cellular memory. We are multidimensional beings. We cannot forget that. We're not just here in the fifth dimension in the illusion. Everybody likes to say it's a, 1 through 4, 5. We're actually multidimensional. This place is multiversal. We go
Mm.
infinite. It's just that we don't understand the frequencies to open those gateways and stargates and portals like we were discussing earlier on. But we still live simultaneously. So think about your soul extensions out there in the cosmos that are not from here, that are part of your celestial heritage that you download. That makes you morph into what appears to be an extraterrestrial to some people because of the frequency modulation. Well, I can go into all different things on that, but just I know you guys know this, and I'm preaching to the choir, but some people listening may not. But let's see here. We have another question from Zippy of 2400. Solaris, is it a possible? This is for you guys. Is it a possible or a popular concept among natives that they are the lost tribes of Israel?
That is what exactly is going to be revealed. And I'll tell you, like I said, it all comes back to East Lake, Ohio. What I can tell you is go to Google Maps and type in Lost Nation, Ohio. You'll see that this road that was named very long ago is a real road here in Ohio. And you take Lost Nation until you get to the very end, and it dead ends on Lakeshore Boulevard right at Lake Erie. If you take a left within 1 mile, you're at the first site of the mound builders, the Lost Nation. And this is the site I was telling you, it has 660-foot long walls. But the point is, instead of taking a left on Lakeshore Boulevard, if you take a right, the first street names you come to is Iroquois, and then Cherokee, and then Seneca, and then Tioga. I'm like, what does Tioga mean? I go and Google it, and it's the Iroquois word that means point of entry. So yes, it is the lost tribe of Israel, but even before that, that's very early in time. What we're going to find out is these are the Atlantean remnants that were still here. And boy, it gets into a lot because the Iroquois, the Seneca, they still own their land. When you go through New York and you go into like Salamanca, it says you've now left New York, the United States. You're under Seneca law, and you find out that Niagara Falls is Salamanca. And so it's the only city that's not owned by the United States. It's actually leased to the United States by the Seneca Nation, the Lost Nation, for real. And you find out their lease was up in like the late 1990s, and the U.S. government paid them $80 million, redid the contract that every year they pay another $1 million to lease that land. People don't even know this, but why I'm telling you this is East Lake, Ohio. I can prove it, and I am proving it to the world. It is Iroquois Seneca land. This is the home base. What was not known and hidden until this time is where their actual home location was. So this is the New Jerusalem. It's going to be announced that Mount site is going to be rebuilt. But I can tell you, there is a movement right here. Man, I'm spilling the beans here. But I'm working with a lawyer. Imagine if all of land of the Native American Indians was given back to the Indians, and they went back to 1775 and took the survey of the United States, and all the land that was still Indian land is given back. And it's proven to the world that this whole government that's been overlaid is unconstitutional and unlawful. And I was just given a book, it's not even out yet, but it's of every treaty that was broken between the United States and the Native American Indians. There is about to be a huge revelation, and this all deals with who this tribe is, being the lost nation, the lost tribe of Israel. So that was a very long answer for a yes.
Wow, that's incredible data. Do you have anything to add there, Kevin?
No, I mean that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting information. I'll tell you what. Thanks for spilling the beans there, Michael. We appreciate that. We have Olive again asking a question here. What Michael is saying is what they told Admiral Richard Byrd. I don't know if that's a question or not. It's just a comment, perhaps. Does that ring true to you in any form, Michael?
I'd have to go back. I know what he's talking about. Admiral Byrd was going over Antarctica and got taken into inner Earth, and he met with some very enlightened beings. I would have to go over the message again, but I remember it was very peaceful, and like he just said, we need to become more responsible.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, I think education is a real critical thing right now. Everybody needs to be kind of on a fast track insofar as consciousness goes, and also deprogramming insofar as the false indoctrination programs they've been subjected to since the beginning of not only their birth, but previous births. I mean, we've had a lot of lies and deception going on for centuries with, all the censorship and editing. So that's breaking down, though. Let's see if we
Indeed.
have another question here. Jerry B. Ask a question. I think that's what he was trying to type. Is it a popular concept among natives that they're the lost tribe of Israel? Did I give you that one already or no?
Yep, that
I
was
did.
the
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yep. I'm sorry. This is
It's
another
all
one
good.
that's a replication. This is from Zippy. It's are the Atlanteans one of the lost tribes of Israel?
Yes, they're one and the same.
Okay. There you
A
go.
matter of fact, what you need to understand, Edgar Casey called the Atlanteans the Poseidians. Poseidon is Inky. That is who I know this sounds crazy, but I am Ea. I am Inky here in these human clothes. And it's all one and the same, so
You-
yes.
Okay, Michael, and I have one question for you. I just had a guest on my show last night on my other show was talking about Inky being Lucifer. What do you think about that?
It's true, but I hate to say it's not the Lucifer that people have been brainwashed. The church, the Pope just came out recently, said, you know what, we just realized that Mary Magdalene was Jesus's main apostle and understood the apostle of apostles, he called her. It's almost like, hey, sorry about that 2,000 years of saying she's a hooker and a prostitute. It's just kind of the same thing, man. They took some of the good guys and spun them backwards. Truly, what you'll find is the Vatican are the bad guys. They're the seven lords of darkness, and they've spun the story into fear. And the good guys are the Templars. And but it's kind of weird because you know how they took the swastika, the Germans did, and now it's actually from Tibet. It was a beautiful, for thousands of years, that was a very sacred, beautiful symbol. But now just because one guy took it, it's got this bad connotation. So
Right.
yeah, I was just thinking how funny it'd be to make a flag and it says Team Lucifer with a swastika.
Oh gosh.
I don't think people are gonna get it.
Well, they get triggered by it. It's psychological warfare. It's imprinting, and they do that with every symbol, from pentacles, you name it, they're going to do it because they're going to imprint people with a negative versus a positive. No, I agree with you that the Vatican is extremely corrupted and more dark than people could even possibly comprehend. And you have to realize that they took a lot of mystery school teachings and warped and converted it and distorted it and really, really tortured and butchered and murdered many, many magical beings so they could actually have that indoctrination program. So, there's a lot going on there, no doubt about it.
I learned so much because, like I said, I've come now face to face with the seven lords of darkness, and I understand how they work. And actually, this is interesting. I heard, and it's happened to all of us, and it actually kind of reminded me with your story with your brother, Kevin, because this is nothing, none of us has been exempt from this, that the dark, since all of us up until this point have given our power away to them in one way or another. There's a million ways to give your power away, and it could be someone tells you something and it hurts your feelings and you let it affect you the next day. You've given your power away, and it's hard just to stand up into your own power and go, that's their opinion, it doesn't affect me. But anyhow, I think I spun out.
No, I completely understand. Yeah, I know what you mean by that, because
that they can come in. I'm sorry, it just hit me that the dark can come in. They can't possess someone, but they can come in for about 45 seconds and whisper in your ear. They can't make you do anything, but they can see where you have shadow work. They can see where you have pain centers that haven't been resolved, and they can tweak those to get people to go dark. And they can only come in for 45 seconds. But what this gets into, the Anunnaki communicated to me that the first thought we have in our heads is from the mass consciousness, always. And usually the first thought, the mass consciousness right now is filled with a lot of fear and doubt. So your first thoughts are usually going to be, oh, I'm getting screwed. Oh, this is happening again. And if you don't train yourself to go, thank you for telling me what I got a fear charge on, what else is available? Like Bruce Lee, when he'd have a feeling of fear or doubt, he'd write it down on a piece of paper and burn it and give it back to the universe and go, well, thank you. What else is available? Once you get to what else is available, now you're separating yourself. Even though you're still part of the mass consciousness, you're becoming a co-creator. Because if not, if you accept those first thought forms of fear and doubt and don't look for anything else, it will become your reality. And you'll say, see, you're right. But then you're truly just manifesting out of the mass consciousness. And so it's all about somehow training yourself to look for more not fear-filled outcomes. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is so if they can come in for 45 seconds and whisper in your ear and you've not trained yourself to look for another, what else is available, that first thought form that they stuck into your head, you're going to be stuck with it. So even they can only come in for 45 seconds. If it's this fear-based thought form and it's just going to keep cycling through your head until you get rid of it. So it's very strange how the seven lords of darkness intertwine it's almost their spiritual purpose to go, see, they'll give their power away. Mm-hmm. They're not ready for higher realms because they're not ready. So that's what they're doing here. And
I'm glad you brought that up because that is exactly what I've been working with several starseeds who have been contacting me lately. Another synchronicity, a starseed by the name of Abby Normal. She is far beyond normal, but she is a Andromeda starseed, very powerful. And I just happened to. I was basically told to contact her, and the reason for that is because when I discovered that I was reading something about and I mentioned something that reptilians, the last time they actually lived above ground during ancient Egypt. That really resonated with me. It was almost like a memory trigger, and I had to do some more research on it. So then I was looking up, doing research, and all of a sudden her website popped up with an article she wrote. She wrote about reptilians in ancient Egypt. I thought it was really cool, so I bookmarked her on the side. It's like, okay, I should look more into her website because she was really powerful. 2 weeks later, I was doing a separate research on a different system, with my wife's tablet, so it has all her algorithms in it, and I was doing a research on YouTube on Mantis, and once again, she showed up. First thing, I'm like, okay, I get it. Synchronicity, I'm supposed to contact her, which I did. And she said when I did contact her, it was at the right time because she was attacked by an alien entity last year, and she had a real hatred towards them and didn't understand why they attacked her. But what happened was that they caught her off guard, and they did this. But it would, and I sent her to Cynthia Crawford, who is an Anunnaki tall white Zeta hybrid. You know her, Michael. You know Cynthia. And
yes, I do.
Yeah, and so Cynthia has learned how to use your unconditional love as your power to be able to ward off these negative energies. She was once chained to the floor of a reptilian ship and she was attacked. But when she learned how to use our unconditional love and welcome whatever negative energy it was into her power, that's when they backed off, and then she was released. And it's like, oh, she learned her lesson. So it's just like as somebody put it, you don't like going to the dentist. It's a negative experience. What you perceive to be negative, but it's not. It's a test. It's a lesson, and when you are able to pass your lesson, then you've reached a higher level.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. What kind of attacks was she receiving? Was it an energetic?
Yes, it was. She was. I guess she was walking through a lake, near a lake. I forget the name of the lake, but anyway. And then all of a sudden there was like this being, just all of a sudden with like kind of reptilian eyes, had attacked her in like whatever. I'm not exactly sure how it attacked her, but it was enough that it caught her off guard because she was kind of looking down. Mm-hmm. And what she told me was that after she had talked to Cynthia, she revisited that spot. She traveled, astral traveled, and she revisited, and the entity actually came back to her, and that was the understanding that she got, was that was the test of exactly what I was talking about, was learning how not to be, not to keep your guard down, keep your eyes looking up, not on the ground, and protect yourself. You use your power and your love as your guide, and you will become strong, and you can walk forth without anyone else attacking you.
Well, I hope she never gets interfaced with artificial intelligence, synthetic telepathy, psychotronic warfare. That's a rough one. That's where
Yeah.
I've been. And
Yes.
I'll tell you, I was going to ask both of you, have you ever been, do you know if you have implants, either one of you?
I know that I do not,
Okay.
but I also know that I know they track me by my signature frequency.
Okay. It's
I can
curious.
tell you, I was at the UFO Congress, and they had this big machine that said it could find implants in you. So they had me go up there, and the guy's like, "Well, you don't have any implants, but you cleared up all the imaging in the system."
Oh,
like,
nice. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's pretty cool. What kind of system were they using for that? Do you remember the machine?
It looked like a big thing that you got in, like kind of radar thing, and then it had a screen that, like, looked kind of had a printout of your, like a computer printout radar of your body.
Very cool. I like that. Well, you're very unique. I tell you what, you're something else, Michael. I just see you doing so much wonderful work. I'll tell you what, both of you, you're phenomenal people. Once again, we're going to get wrapping this up in about 5 or 6 minutes here, but I want to thank both of you for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm going to have both of you back. You know that, right?
Oh, right on. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, we're going to have to connect in person for sure. And let everybody know how to access your stuff once again, your books and your music, whatever you have out there. Show everybody, let everybody know.
Well, one thing I didn't say is if you want to check out my UFO footage and my YouTube page, it is Frozen Hill, all one word. And, everything's up there. My website is www.michaelleehill.net. And my Facebook, it's Michael Lee Hill, but I like how Facebook tells you can only have so many friends. So it doesn't, I think I'm at my limit with friends, but I am on Facebook.
We can still follow you though, or you click on there. I think they can still track you.
Oh, is that how it works?
I think so. When you've got your limit on friends, you can still be followed or something like that to that effect. Something like that for sure. What about you, Kevin?
You can find everything on me at www.pyramidsonmars.com. I mean, my CDs are there. There's also a link to my radio show at artistfirst.com, which is Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio. And as I said, I interview hybrids. I interview people who've been on board craft. I don't like calling them alien abductees because it's not an abduction. People who've been on, so all the interviews are there. I also have, I just released a series of online guitar lessons that teach my style of guitar, which is very neoclassically influenced, but it's a lot more like violin type of technique. And melodic phrasing that's inspired by Antonio Vivaldi and Bach. Very, very unique teachings of what I do. So definitely check that out. You can find everything at pyramidsonmars.com.
Wonderful, beautiful. And what's down the road for either one of you? Are you going to be writing any books or anything like that?
Well, both of us are actually writing albums with the same name, and we didn't even know it.
Oh, really? Synchronicity again.
Indeed.
So what's the name again?
432.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Are you going to merge your albums or what?
It'll happen sooner or later, I'm sure. But
that's wild.
I gotta share this, Kevin. When you said we don't like being called abductees, I don't know if you've seen that new show, People of the Earth, but they're like, we prefer being called experiencers. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, they
have
do.
You guys have you seen that show?
I haven't seen the show. I saw the preview to it.
It is hilarious, and it's actually, there's an Anunnaki, there's a Gray, there's a reptilian. It's hilarious.
Is it a comedy?
It is a comedy, but it's kind of like Disclosure, and really it's how they portray all the races is very, very hilarious. Like the Gray has no emotions and how he deals with things, and the Anunnaki is over emotional kind of. He's a big Nordic looking dude, and reptilian, and it's very, very funny.
That sounds pretty cute.
Yeah.
So is that on cable or something, or how's that?
It is. I think it's on TBS, but it might be. I'm sure it's on Hulu, and I know it's on. Like I got On Demand on my Time Warner cable, and it's on it. But it's still on. The second season is going to be coming on, so just keep an eye out for it. Totally hilarious.
Excellent. So are either one of you going to do any night vision tours? I mean, it sounds like you do that when you go out there. You invite people to participate with you. What about you, Kevin? Are either one of you doing anything like that?
Well, I know I'm going to the Alien Cosmic exhibition in Toronto this summer, and I know that there's some things that are planned for that. So I'm definitely going to be taking part in that, because they did some outdoor activity at nighttime with all the experiencers.
Nice.
People might think I'm joking, but I want to start a Lake Erie UFO inner tube club.
Cool.
Where we just get tons of people on inner tubes and we all tie up together and have some LEDs on our heads. First of all, can you imagine 100 people all tied up? Like, it'd be freaking hilarious. But go out there right to where these UFOs are flying over your head, because I know where they're at. You know, I know where they're showing up. I was told that the world's largest underground base is under Lake Erie right here. And he said it's not ours. I'm talking about the head of the NSA.
Wow. Interesting. No wonder. Well, that sounds like a blast. Well, you keep me informed on that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to come out there and just have fun. Okay, that just sounds like a fun time.
Why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not having fun, stop it.
I'm telling you, life is too short in the illusion until we come back someplace else. But seriously, yeah, I believe in having fun. And once again, we're just about out of time here. I want to thank both of you. You're wonderful souls, wonderful people, and I love the work you're doing here. So thank you for sharing your beautiful energy with our listeners tonight. Both of you.
Thank you for having us on.
It's been a pleasure. It really has. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Everybody in the chat room, wonderful questions tonight. Stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Mecky coming up next to sail you on into the night from down under, as they always do with their awesome show. And I believe they're talking about physical evidence of the strange tonight. So that kind of correlates with what we've been kind of discussing here and there. So anyways, I think we're just about out of time here, but I just want to thank you all again. Any final words, guys? I think we have about maybe 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah, Solaris is amazing.
Oh, you always say that. I'll pay you later.
No.
Checks in the mail.
Just thank you, and it's been a pleasure. It's so nice to speak with like-minded individuals.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, it's been a pleasure for me too. I really enjoyed it. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week, and until next time, be safe, everybody out there.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.